Welcome back to the Sideline Live podcast. You can follow us over on Twitter and Instagram at the Sideline Live. We'd love to hear from you. On episode 98, I'm delighted to be joined by former Irish 7 and Olympian Foster Horan. In this episode we discuss his career, moving from 15s to 7s rugby, his time in a professional setup, creatine, drinking bans and so much more. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with Foster, so I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hi Foster, thanks a million for joining me on the podcast.
No, yeah, it's great. It's great to be involved, Orla. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into everything, I'd like to give the guests about 30 seconds to a minute just to give the listeners a bit of an intro into who they are.
Cool. So my name's Foster Horan. I am a retired Ireland Sevens rugby player. I think that's the first time I've said that sentence, so that's interesting. All right. I suppose I started my rugby would have been in Gorey when I was under eights. Came all the way through the underage system there. Went to school in Kilkenny College. Once finished up in Kilkenny, I would have played a lot of Leinster underage through the sub academy and Irish underage teams. And then I went over to London Irish under a professional contract there, and I played a year with London Irish. And then I returned home to Ireland and I was in the Ireland men's sevens from 2015 all the way through until the recent Tokyo 2020 Olympics. And I finished up after that.
For you growing up, at what point and what age were you when you kind of realised, look, I have a bit of talent here, I have a bit of opportunity with development squads, academies, Leinster and Ireland?
I suppose I always loved rugby because my older brothers, Ben and Philip, would have sort of introduced it to me, I'd say, when I was about 4, or they would have been a bit older than me, but they would have always, I suppose, as you do with your older siblings, you look up to them. So they would have played a lot of rugby, and I suppose they really got me involved first off. And they always would have encouraged me, and they always said, "Oh, look, you're really talented and you're great." So like that really instilled, I suppose, a lot of confidence into me myself when I was a young guy. But then when I got into Kilkenny College, I suppose it got a little bit more serious, and you would have had the likes of your junior cups and your senior cups, and I remember there was player played with Peter Lydon in Kilkenny, and I remember asking him, as you would, I was like, oh, what are you thinking of doing or whatever, and he was like, oh, I want to be a professional rugby player. Like, there was no such thing as like I want to, I want to be a physio, or I want to be, taxi driver, whatever. He was like, I want to be a professional rugby player, and I was like, geez, yeah, like I wouldn't mind doing that as well. So look, Peter's over playing in France now, so like he's pretty much played professional rugby all the way along. So I remember that was a sort of a big, I suppose, a realization that, look, you can go and be a professional in a rugby team,
Okay, yeah, it's interesting talking to guests on the podcast. There's always, not a realization, but there's somebody that plays a part in their story, whether it's a personal connection where they might not know the person, they just look up to another athlete, where they kind of realize, I actually might have an opportunity to do what they're doing, or are inspired by what they've said or what they've set out to do.
Yeah, no, fair. And I suppose, I don't know where Peter got it, but he would have always trained really hard, and two of us would have sort of played a lot together, obviously growing up all the way through school, and we would have came through a lot of the likes of the Leinster age grades and Irish underage teams and stuff. So it was, I suppose it was great being pushed along with likes of him.
Mm-hmm. Can you describe what it's like going into a high performance setup for the first time, maybe as a teenager? How do you navigate coming together? Maybe, you're used to being, probably the best player in your school, in your area, to coming into an academy, and you've got all of this talent here together, and just is there a bit of a buzz and a bit of excitement that this is the best of the best, learning, here to learn and here to improve?
I know, definitely. I have a funny story that really shows how innocent I was when I went over to London anyway. But yeah, going into the likes of London or into Leinster, obviously they, at the time when I was in there, they were starting to break into winning Heineken Cups. So like they had like a serious team there, and like you could really see Joe Schmidt was in there at the time, and you could see that like it was a serious setup, and like it was seriously professional. Like even then through the lower age grade teams, and like what was expected of you was like you're expected to be at like the highest standard. But coming back to that funny story about how innocent I was when I went in, I remember I went over to London Irish, and I was in there for the first week, and there was a huge emphasis in the gym over in England, a lot more I felt than there was, say, in Leinster. Like there was like it was all about being big, like as in really big heavy guys, and they're just trying to flog the weight onto you. And like I personally am like I'm quite small, like compared to a lot of the other guys who are playing 15s. But I remember I went in, I was doing a gym session, and after my gym session, the SC was like to me, it's like, go over there and get a scoop of protein, scoop of creatine, and a scoop of BCAAs. And I was like, okay. So me being little ginger, walk over with my shaker, and I pick up. Do you ever see like a loading shovel for serious mass? Like they're massive, like they're absolutely huge. I picked this up, and it's like one of these, and he was like with someone else. He's like, yeah, like like didn't even look like. He's like, yeah. So like I take out this big scoop of protein, bang, like barely, like nearly filled it up all the way. Big group of creatine, bang, big scoop of, like my shaker was full to the top with powder, right? And I was like, surely not. Like screwed this on, filled it up with water, and it was like super stew. It was so thick, like so grainy. And I was drinking this for like, I was doing this for a week. Like I was nearly getting sick because I used to do it and start walking home. Like I'd walk back because I didn't have my car over there. I
Yeah.
was literally doing this for a week, like, and I was like nearly puking on the way home, like, and I was like, oh my God, like, how are lads doing this? And, like, these lads are animals. Anyway, I'm in the gym one day, and I'm about to leave, and I'm filling up my shaker. One of the lads walks by and goes, what the hell are you doing, mate? I was like, what are you at? I was like, oh, it's a one scoop of protein and one scoop of creatine, one scoop of BCAAs. And it picks up like a little tiny thing. It's like, yeah, one of these, you mad scum. Like, couldn't believe it, like, could not believe it.
That is brilliant. And
Oh,
I love the fact it took you a week as well to realise for someone to say it.
what are you going down and cramp full of creatine? Like, lads are like, what's wrong with this new fella? Like, he can't run at all. Oh, his gas.
Oh, there's plenty of slagging anyway in the pro setup I get.
Oh, surely you wouldn't want to be you wouldn't want to be close to your feelings or anything like that. So you wanna be fairly thick skinned, like.
Yeah, I'd say so. You were part of a pretty successful Irish under 20 team. You had a very significant run in the World Cup, but you missed out. Kind of on, it was a three-way tie in the end. So, but talk us through that team and that World Cup campaign. It was a serious team and some serious wins.
Yeah, look, there's some serious players come out of that team. To be fair, like you've got the likes of Tyg Furlong and Jack Cohn and Ian Henderson, like the serious operators there, like Luke McGrath, Kieran, like I could name off Tyg Byrne. Like there's so many like serious guys who've pushed on to huge roles, like within Ireland and even with the Lions. So look, it was great playing with those guys, and like I suppose growing up along with them through my career. Um, and look, we had a great team there. Like Mike Ruddock coaches, he would have been my Lansdowne coach as well at the time. So um, we were over in South Africa. And I remember we played the first game against South Africa in South Africa, and they were heavily tipped. Well, they actually went on and won it, but they were so, South Africans can be confident, but these were overconfident. Like they were very cocky, and we really targeted that game because we were like, we need to really show up here. Like it's a huge game. And the previous year, I think that South African team in the 20s had put like 40 points on the Irish team. They played the previous World Cup. So I remember we'd really set our sights on that game, and we went out and we won. It was huge. Like JJ Hanrahan was unbelievable that night. Kicked Everton. I think he hit a drop goal. I'm not sure if he scored a try, but he nailed it that night. And we bet him. And we had a 3-day turnaround to play England. So you're after playing South Africa, who are absolutely physical beasts, and to turn around 3 days later to play an English team who had like Divina Polos, Luke Coundickey, like Anthony Watson, Martin Yard, like all these guys who are absolute beasts as well, to turn around and play them 3 days later. And unfortunately, we just missed out. We missed out on that game. We lost that game, but then it came down to we played Italy, gave them a good beating, but then it was England and South Africa, and South Africa went out and bet England by a bonus point to put them through to the semi final. So it was only one team went through, and South Africa ended up going through. So it was a bit of a bummer, to be honest. We ended up playing England in like the fifth place playoff and ended up beating them. So we got our revenge, but still we could have easily been in a World Cup semi final, but we missed out. But yeah, it was an unbelievable time. Just very unfortunate. Like yeah.
Of the players you were playing with on that team, could you tell at that point that they were going to go on and have such a fantastic career? Did you realize how special that group was? Like, it was such a the whole group was obviously very talented, but did you realize at the time how special it was? Kind of what you could have achieved, but as a group.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's some quality players in that. Like I remember playing against Tyke Furlong when I was younger, and I remember always thinking, geez, he was a serious talent, like, coming along. And then I remember in South Africa, it's actually can't remember his name now, but he's the prop for South Africa at the moment as well. I think it's Kitchener or one of those anyway. He was actually propping for South Africa at the time, and he was playing Super Rugby at the time. And I mean, Tig absolutely killed him. And I remember, like, a lot of people are saying, like, it was unbelievable how good he was, and like that was just a glimpse of what obviously has come for him now down the line. Like, and then I would have been very close with Jack Conan and Tig Byrne at the time. Like I said, I would have done a lot of training with them, and like Tig was in Lansdowne, and then Jack Conan would have been in Jards, and I went to Kilkenny and Jards, and played a lot. So like I knew they were extremely talented. So it was great to see them push on and go to the places they've gone as well.
Mm-hmm. For you, where did the opportunity for the sevens come up? Was it kind of I know you were part of the original. I think there was 5 years that went to the Olympics that were there in 2015.
Yeah.
Where did the opportunity come up, and how did they pitch that to you as the program? Because I guess they had to kind of not sell it, but it was, it hadn't been done before. It was new. You kind of had to start from the bottom. How did they pitch that to you, and how did the opportunity come up?
Yeah, so for me, I was over in London Irish at the time, and I was due to be kept on, but a big part of it for me at the time was I hadn't a college degree done at that stage. And I think it was 2 or 3 years out of college, and I really wanted to go back to college, and my parents were like very much so like, you need to get a degree. So I remember the coach time, Brian Smith was like, you need to I was like, I need to have a college degree. And he was like, okay, well, he had the contract, but he was like, I'll also sort you out a scholarship with St. Mary's, Twickenham. And I remember myself and Jerry Sexton, who's Johnny Sexton's brother, was also looking to come over at the same time. Me and him were sort of going on a similar contract where you were on a scholarship to St. Mary's, but also your contract with London Irish.
Okay.
So it's that you could do part-time college, but you could also like play as a professional athlete. And unfortunately, at the last minute, St. Mary's pulled out, but London Irish are still on. But I was like, no, I'm not going unless I get a contract. So, or unless I get a college course. So I had a college course in DCU at the time, so I came back to complete that. And then at the time, the sevens had kicked off. Okay, so they were doing like an open trial in, I think it was around January 2015, and it was a fitness test. So it was like a yo-yo, speed test, and some jump test or something like that. And I went to the open trial, and Harry McNulty was actually there as well. There was the two of us, and Harry stayed on as well, and we went through all the way after that then. So that's sort of how it worked out.
And can you describe the early years of going through the divisions? Is it CBA and then the World Series? Have I had that right? Or there's another series in between?
You're right. So it's CBA, and then you have the Grand Prix, which is which is pretty much Rugby Europe.
Okay.
And you have to qualify. I think the top two teams at Rugby Europe who are not in the World Series go into Hong Kong for a qualifier, and then whoever wins that competition in Hong Kong goes into the World Series.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a mouthful, but
Yeah. How was those early years going through that? Obviously maybe some of the games weren't as competitive as you would have liked to be, and you want to be in the top division. But for you,
yeah.
how was it adjusting to the sevens game as well?
So yeah, like it's a very different game, and particularly how we played in them early days are so different compared to how the boys play now. Um, and I remember for a lot of that period, pretty much when I came back from London Irish, pretty much on, I was injured continuously. So that was, I think it was easily 4 years. So I was actually, it was 3 years, yeah, 3 years continuously injured. So from 2015, when I was in there, I didn't make my first debut till 2018 in London. So I had, and there was numerous games. I'd say easily 10 games where I was picked for the tournament, and the week of I'd pick up a hamstring injury, or it was generally a hamstring injury. It was nearly 90% of the time hamstring injury, um, and I'd end up missing out, which was always unfortunate. But look, I think there was some really great learnings all along throughout that. Like there was the boys went pretty much all over Europe, pretty much over them, the three different divisions, and some like really good learnings in terms of like I think there was teams like in Kakistan and everything, like looking for the
Oh
lads'
wow.
signatures and everything throughout the whole
Wow.
like Bosnia as well, and different places like that. The boys were getting asked for signatures and all sorts, and lads are like, "What is going on here?" And they go out and they beat teams like 50 and 60-0. But it's just like I suppose a lot of the players who were involved at the time were all like academy and who were all professional players now. They would have all sort of came through the sevens, and it was a great stepping stone for guys who weren't getting a whole lot of game time in, say, year 1 or 2 of academy, who could come in, get some really good like confidence, like some one-on-one skills in terms of like sevens really isolate your skills. So you have to have like a really good catch pass, like really good tackle, really good rucking technique, like really good like basics of the game. And it really isolates it because there's so much space on the pitch. So you're really much isolated, and you have to just be able to, I suppose, enhance them skills to survive, especially at the top level. Like you have to be A1 for every game. And like if you have one or two guys who are knocking off, like you'll get found out very quickly. So it's a really good place to learn and I suppose pick up. And a lot of guys did, and like it really improved their rugby knowledge and their rugby skills, right?
hmm Speaking about skills, but even fitness, I mean, you must have
Yeah.
been hitting crazy numbers, like fitness test wise.
Oh, look, it's mental. Like some of the boys are just machines. To be fair, like the Broncos are good for all right. Like, but to be fair, like it's such a tough sport because like when I speak to people and they're asked like how long is a game, you'd be like, oh, 14 minutes. And they're like, oh, that's not too bad. But like it is honestly the worst 14 minutes of your life. Like you're in hell for 14 minutes. Like so I don't think people realize how tough it actually is. Like
Yeah, no, I don't, and I even watching it, I'm like, I'd say that's 100 times worse. I'm just not playing it,
mm,
like obviously or whatever.
mm,
For you personally, then going through those injuries, we spoke a lot before we hit record, but
mm.
what kept you involved in the team? Why didn't you kind of maybe pack it in where a lot of people would have, maybe given up on pursuing, professional level sport through so many injuries, through so many setbacks. I mean, being picked for a team and finding out, being injured the week of the tournament is heartbreaking once, multiple times is must be devastating. What kept you motivated and what kept you involved in pursuing that dream?
Yeah, like as I said, like I suppose when I was saying to you off air there, like I suppose it's the characters in the team, like all the lads, I suppose, in terms of like, of course, like my family and my girlfriend as well had a huge say as well, like in terms of like they're always like encouraging me to keep going and push on. But like definitely the characters within the team, and just I suppose the enjoyment level of it, like going in with the lads, and just I knew there was such a potential as well with the quality of players there, and how well we are always like stepping stone all the way up along, like, and always punching along, like what do we need to do next? Like there was always like it was a goal oriented, like where are we pushing to next? And like it was just great, like obviously going CBA, then into the Grand Prix, then win Hong Kong, then go to the World Cup, then get to the Olympics. And now, like I suppose for the lads that are there, it's very much so like win World Series, like be competitive, like win a World Cup, like, and like just keep pushing it, like get on a podium in the Olympics, like, you know, like, and it just keeps driving that. So like I suppose that is really what like sort of I suppose drove me in terms of around when I picked up those injuries, and like I just knew I had a lot more to give to the game as well, personally, and I think that's where a lot of my family and like my girlfriend Laura would have definitely like told me to keep at it, and like to like keep pushing for what you want, like, you know.
How much, when you get to the elite level, how important is self awareness as an athlete to kind of recognise, even you recognising that you had more to give to rugby, or even just looking at kind of, I call it your skills toolbox, you know, your strengths and your weaknesses. How important is self awareness as a elite athlete?
Oh, sure, it's huge, like in terms of I suppose even like when you're looking back to your own performance and like knowing where you need to either be better or where you need to give back to the team a bit more. And it's just being able to understand that. I suppose you just need to be aware of your surroundings, and I suppose the lads are very good at that as well. They let you know very quickly where you either A need to improve, or B, you know, where you need to be at. And I suppose we really drove that as a team, and I suppose it makes it, when you're in a team environment, it makes that a lot easier, um, because you've got guys pushing you, and asking you questions about where you're at and what you need to improve on, and where you need to I suppose do your role within that team to make sure that we're getting them results and pushing the team in the better place. Um, so, and then obviously you have your own goals yourself then as well, around what you want to achieve, and what you need to do.
Hmm. Are you more motivated by success or failure? And I don't mean exact failure, maybe a setback, maybe an injury, or is it
Mm.
the win or the big performance you get? What do you find for you?
That's actually, I think I take a mix of both. Um, Definitely, like you want to push for success, okay, but you also need to look at your processes as well, like as in like I suppose like going into a tournament will always be like, oh, I want to win this, or like I really need to win this. But then when you're in it and you're doing it, you're very much thinking about breaking down the process and what you're doing when you're in it. um and I remember I was like, when I was younger, like I was a very big critic, like I'd make a mistake and I'd live on that, like I'd always be like I'd always be thinking about the one mistake I made in the game rather than the 10 good things you done. Whereas as I got older, like I learned to like just be like think about your next process, and go there, and forget about the mistake. Like as in there's nothing you can do with it. And I think sevens really brought that into my game for me, because within sevens it's such a busy weekend. You've got your 6 games in the weekend, okay? And say for instance you had one bad game, okay? Literally in 2 hours time you have another game coming up, like, so you can't really reflect too much on it, so you have to be able to turn it around really quickly and go out there and smash that next game. So like it's very much so process first. So what's coming up next? What can we do better? Where can we improve? Let's push that then, okay, when we get into this next game. And like that's what I always loved. Like I'll never forget, we had played a semi-final in Twickenham in 2018. And we'd lost to Fiji. And I remember I was really pissed off after, like I was really, really, really annoyed after it. And Harry McNulty, who I'd mentioned, he said to me at the time, like he had played a lot of sevens. It was sort of new to me. He'd even played it before the Irish sort of team was set up, and he was like, the best thing about sevens is there's always another game. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, man, we've got a third place playoff coming up, like, you know. He's like, it's huge. We're playing England in England, and like straight away, like I just forgot about the Fiji game. And I was like, cool, yeah, we've got a huge chance here of winning a bronze medal, and which we actually went out and done, which was unbelievable, like, you know.
Yeah, and that was your first cap as well in 2018. Is that
Yeah,
yeah? So how much?
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
How special was that for you? Of all the setbacks we had just talked about, to go out and not only get your first cap, but to as well to get a medal, but as well to beat England.
Oh, it was unbelievable. Like, as in, we played England quite a bit. Sort of leading up to that, like we would have done a lot of training camps along for like the likes of Grand Prix and everything else. And it was to play England as well. Like it was their, like a lot of time we would have been playing the development team or a few different teams, but to play their first team in Twickenham and beat them, it was unbelievable. Like, and particularly on your first cap as well. Like after like all my injuries and everything throughout, like it was great to finally get on, and like I suppose then become third in the World Series as an invitational team was unbelievable at that time. And not only for me, but it was also for the team as well, because we had actually been in Hong Kong in, I think it was April or March of that year. So London it was in May, so similar time now, but it was back in April or March, and we had actually lost in the semi-final to Japan, which was pretty devastating for the whole team. But I think ever since that Hong Kong experience, we've never really looked back, and the program has just only really accelerated from there. Like,
Okay, interesting. Of all the athletes you've played with or against, I always like to ask this question: what separates the elite from the rest of the pack, from those one or two superstars? What do you feel separates the best from the rest?
well, that's a good question. Um, I suppose, particularly within the sevens, I think like mindset, around, I suppose, like never giving up. I know, I know within the sevens, like a lot of guys a few things either fell out of love with like 15s, or like similar to myself, like picked up a lot of injuries and came into the sevens, or they had, I suppose, just got let go out of a professional setup. So like for a lot of them guys, they still, even though they sort of had that moment where they were let down, or their body broke down, or there was, I suppose, a setback, they had that resilience and that sort of mental toughness to come back and, like, I suppose, fight back again, and to put their energy into the sevens, which pretty much really drove that program on. And like, I think that just goes to show the mental toughness within that group. So definitely within that group, I'd say the mental toughness.
You're actually a pro, because my next question was going to be: is elite sport more physical or mental? I'm getting the sense it might lean towards the mental side.
For sure, yeah, definitely. Especially like I always, particularly going back to sevens, and I suppose 15s as well. Like it is huge around that mental side. Within sevens, and you know yourself, like when you're playing, say, a big like championship game in your Gaelic, um, like beforehand, like, you know, the butterflies you have, and like that really nervous feeling you'd have throughout. Um, with the sevens, you have that 6 times over a weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, so it really does drain you mentally. Like I remember, I was in we were in Monaco for the we're in Monaco for the Olympic qualifier just before Tokyo. And I knew in my head, I was like, okay, if we don't win this, like, this is my last game of rugby ever. I was like, this is it, like I'm done, like, you know. And I was sitting on the bed, I was rooming with Ian Fitz. And Fitzy's he actually retired as well. But two of us were sitting in the room before the game, before the French game, and even before every game before that, but particularly before the French game. and I was like shaking. I was proper shaking, like in the bed, like my legs and everything. Like, and he was like, "Man, are you okay?" Like, he's fully concerned. Like, and I was like, "Mate, I can't help this. Like, honestly, like, my head is broken." But no, like for me, like that was killer. Like, I hated that bit. Like, say, like an hour before the game or an hour and a half before the game, and you're waiting around. I hated it. As soon as you got out, like got your boots on and you were in the warm up, absolutely fine, no problem in the world. Like,
Okay, yeah. Did you have a
yeah,
routine that you try use to maybe settle those shakes a little bit, or was it just was this hour just hurry up?
just hurry up, just hurry up. Like, as soon as you got the boots on, like you'd be fine. And like I like the way I just used to think about it is like you just really, really care. Like you really want this, like, and like like obviously ended up working in the end, but like you're just in your head, like you're just like I just want to get out there, like,
It's something I was really impressed with. There was a video, I think it was 2019, it was definitely before COVID, but it was like a daily routine of you guys in Blanche. And I was really impressed. I think he had arrived at like 10 in the morning. He didn't leave till about 6. Can you describe the level of training and preparation that you guys went through? I think it was a 4-day week, they said in the video, and even from like going in through the door, the daily testing you would do. I was like, I thought the video was great because it gave such insight into what it is like on the day-to-day side of things, which I don't think we get to see as general sports fans and supporters, is the work that actually goes into behind these big performances.
yeah, like I suppose it really grew over the years in terms of like once we got into that high performance center up in Blanche, like things really started to get going. So yeah, you'd have your monitoring as you got in first, like just making sure that your body's good, like it's ticking over in terms of like you have like your groin squeeze, sit and reach, your knee to wall, like all these, like I suppose objective tests to measure how your body's moving and whether you're well prepped for training or if your body's in good need for training. And then you'd have also a subjective, I suppose, marker in terms of like how you feel yourself on the day in terms of like how's your energy levels, how you slept, like certain questions around how you're prepared for your training. And then very much so you go into your own mobility routine. So everyone, like nearly all the players, would have an individualized mobility program or their own areas they need to work on because, as we all know, within rugby there's so many injuries. So every player would have a continuous individual program. So for me, it would have been all around, like, I suppose, lower back, hips, and hamstring in terms of to get that firing. Then you'd go into a bulletproof, which was another activation circuit, which the whole group done together, which was either physio led or S&C led. And then you would have generally an hour session, sometimes over, sometimes under, but there was a lot of high speed running, a lot of high speed meters. And then depending on the day, you could have like your gym sessions, you could have a double pitch session, you could have speed sessions, video analysis, you could have a range of different things, but it would have been all set out through the week so as that you'd have longer days. And then you also had full use of a hydrotherapy suite, which had like your cold and your heat, and then also you're well fed and stocked up above as well. Like, so, look, you're pretty much covered across all bases in terms of like you have your nutritionist, S&C, physio, your manager, like video analysis, everything like within the building. So, it's well structured out there, to be fair.
Mm. Well, how big was that for you to move in there, and what year did you actually move into the Blanche setup?
Yeah, it was. To be fair, it was huge for the program. As we were located in. Firstly, we were in DCU, then we went UCD, and then we were in Lansdowne. So pretty much we had no real home as such. We were sort of jumping around from base to base. Um, to be fair, Blanche was great. Like, as in, it's just high performance. The gym was unbelievable. Like, we had our own change rooms. Like, it was just so much more snug. Like, which made a huge difference. Like, just even for everyone, like physically and mentally, like throughout the whole process. And when did we move in? Ooh, I think it was 2019. I'm gonna say 2019. It could have been 2018. I think it was 2019 we moved in. Yeah.
Something I was really impressed with the video, that this, like, how big is that for you guys that were there from the start, to see the support for the program grow and to see the investment, and to kind of, I like, even you spoke about this, you kind of mentioned it, you haven't directly said it, but I think you've always thought that the program was bigger than the us being there, was bigger than, you know, the Tokyo Olympics. It's now the next generation of players.
Yeah, like it's a lot of it, the lads coming through, and even to be fair, there's a good contingent of guys who went to the Olympics are still involved, like all like best mates, like, you know, they're still firing away. Like it is class, like, you know, the whole setup. The biggest thing is like, I suppose it's a big commitment in terms of being with the sevens as well, because it's at least minimum 4 days a week, and then you're also traveling for 2 weeks at a time, and you're traveling around the world. So it's very hard in terms of financially, like, as in to keep involved, because they necessarily wouldn't be paid. It'll be, I suppose, around minimum wage and below. So it's not necessarily the most lucrative sort of area. Like I had to work. I actually had to work alongside when I was playing as well, which is another challenge in itself. Particularly when you're going through that load. But to see it come from where it has in terms of rented facilities, like it's been unbelievable. I just hope it keeps pushing where they can invest more money for the players. Because particularly I know a lot of lads who did finish up after Olympics, like, they would have easily been able to do another cycle. Which is also a pity, but look, financially it didn't make sense for them either. So, you know, so like that's why I love seeing the young lads coming in and pushing and enjoying that, because it is very much a development process.
Okay, interesting. I was told to ask about kind of Greg and Love Island, but did you notice much of an increase in interest in the Sevens program after he was on TV?
I think there's more of an interest in Greg, all right. I know it was class having Greg on board. To be fair, he's a good character. He, like, really big personality in the team, so he was. And to be fair to Greg, he was, like I always say to him, like, he's such a man for the occasion, like for the big occasion. He always stepped up, like it was unbelievable. Like, so obviously he smashed Love Island. Couldn't have done it any better if anybody tried. Like, absolutely. I don't know, was he in there for 13 days, 12 days?
Yeah, mad.
Could have walked out with 50 grand, walked out with 25 grand. So he was laughing. But even for us, like, as in, I remember Hong Kong in 2019 when we won. Hugo Keenan went down injured. And Greg stepped up for quarter-final, semi-final, final, and smashed it out of the park. Scored a try in the final. And then he stepped up again in the Olympic qualifier over in France. The weekend he went out to Love Island and played unbelievable, like missed out to France by a whisker. And then he stepped up again in Monaco when we qualified for the Olympics, and he was actually he had been dropped from the team altogether just before that, and he stepped in and done like obviously won Monaco and then smashed it out in the Olympics as well. Like, so it's unbelievable, like, you know.
Yeah, I think people don't realize, actually, like, even when you mentioned there the mental turmoil of not being involved and then getting the call in and then, like, performing is huge. I don't think people realize. People just say, oh yeah, he's a rugby player, but like he's delivered, as you say, in the big days. Is it true that you didn't know he was going out
to Love Island?
Did you not know?
I didn't have a clue. There was, because he couldn't tell anybody in case it got out. But like I was watching Love Island the night before with him, and like he was asking me all these questions, and I had questions about it, and I was like, what is he on about? And the next day, isn't he flicking on the TV? Like, I was like, you're joking me. Unbelievable.
Gas, yeah.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
you,
yeah,
for the Monaco qualifier, you even said you knew it was going to be your last game.
yeah.
How did you mentally stay focused and not let that emotion kind of take over? Like, I think if I knew it was going to be my last game, I don't know, I'd probably just sit there crying the whole match. What, like, for you, how big of a match was this, knowing that if this doesn't go our way, this is the last time I'm playing?
It definitely played on my mind beforehand the game, but I think once I got into it, it didn't really. But it just meant I just remember thinking to myself, like, you just need to waste yourself here, like, you know what I mean? As in, like, and I played enough games of sevens. Like, some people, you could waste yourself, but you could waste yourself in 2 minutes and then you're no good for the rest of the game. But so I knew I needed to be quality what I done, but I also knew that I needed to, like, physically put my body on the line as well. Like, you know, that way, to know that, like, I knew, because I'm the type of player that I leave a lot of it out there. And like, for me, 14 minutes, I do 40 minutes at a time, but I'd be gassed because I particularly my role in the team at the time, um it was very much so like a physical role. And to be able to do that for 40 minutes is damn near impossible. So, like, I knew a lot of the time that I'd be coming off around 12 or around 12 or 10 minutes, in around that sort of time, because I knew I had some guys that'd be able to come on and finish out the game. So it just meant that I could waste this, like, I suppose, put all my energy in for them 10 or 12 minutes, and knew
Mm.
that I'd be okay then the other side of that.
Something that came up with Aoife McDermott was regrets in sport, and she made an interesting point. I'd love to get your take on it. She was like,
Mm.
or like, you're, as a high performer, you'll always have, maybe she didn't say regrets, but it's like, I could have done this, could have done that. You're never going to be 100% satisfied with your
Mhm.
performance. Is that something that you would have experienced?
Um, yeah, well, for me, I really regret. In terms of regrets, yeah, I'd say the Olympics for me was a bit of I think I think after our win in Monaco, in terms of, I think we may have gone into the Olympics with a bit of a hangover in terms of emotionally and physically, going into the Olympics. And I just regret that we didn't really show up. We just didn't. We weren't quite there mentally, I don't think. And like a lot of lads will say, just we didn't turn up. And I think for me, I think Monaco was our final, and I think the energy that we had to put into that to get to the Olympics, I think it was just too much to be able to back it up again. And I think that was one of my biggest, I suppose, things that are like that annoy me, was that we didn't show, because we were on the world stage, that we didn't show what we're really made of. Um, and I think if we had another little bit more time, post that Monaco, I think we would have showed up.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. How did you find the whole Olympic experience? I know obviously with COVID, it was obviously not the same as maybe, would have been before, and hopefully Paris, we won't have COVID anymore. But
Yeah.
what was it like for you? How did you find the whole experience of becoming an Olympian?
Um, Look, it was great. Like, I think it's a pity that family couldn't be there, and that we couldn't have, I suppose, crowds in the stadiums. But like, obviously, it was great that the Olympics went ahead, and it was like the Japanese people done an unbelievable job getting that to go ahead, considering where we were in terms around COVID. And look, it's an unbelievable city in terms of like how nice the people are. Like, so helpful, so kind, so nice. And even the Olympics itself was a great experience. Like, as in, walking around the food hall, seeing the village, all the different athletes, even though for me it felt fairly intimidating in terms of, like, I was looking up nearly the whole time because I was so short. um, it's gas, like, the when you're walking around, you're one of the shortest lads there. Like, all the boys were like, "Oh Jesus!" Like, because we wouldn't be the tallest team. We're a small, like, team, like, so it's gas, like. But no, the whole thing was, it was a great experience, like, and we really enjoyed it as a group. Uh, And just as I said, like it's just a little bit annoying that we didn't really get the performance we wanted. But look, it was unbelievable to get there. And like I think for a team that only really started in 2015 to get to the Olympic Games in 2020 is a fair achievement. Like, so I think we have to be happy with that. Like, you know.
Mm-hmm. Did you get to go to any events, or did you get to meet anyone in the village? Obviously, COVID would have been a factor there, but have you any good stories in the village?
We met Shane Lowry. Shane Lowry's actually such a boss, to be fair to him. So he is. He came in to say hello to all the athletes. You know, he was staying outside the village, but it was great for him to come in. I think it was great for him to come in because he's such a sort of high profile. And it was great to see him. And then I suppose you see all the heads knocking around like Djokovic and a few of those, like, so, which is pretty cool. And I think Simone Biles was knocked around as well, like, so yeah. And then obviously it was great to see the other Irish athletes do so well, like, you know, the rowers and obviously Kelly Harrington there. It was unbelievable, like, you know.
Mm-hmm. I love seeing all the videos in the village of the you kind of greeted them as they came back to the apartment block, and it was so nice to see everyone kind of was there a real team atmosphere when you were in the village together?
There was, yeah. No, there definitely was between the Irish athletes. It was actually great for even post, because it was hard during COVID because a lot of people I found, which was totally understandable, and like I was very same, like I was the exact same, like there's such a fear around getting COVID that you miss out on competing. So like definitely between other countries, it was like there was it wasn't that it was standoffish, but it was, you weren't exactly interacting a lot, okay. But with the Irish athletes, there was such a good buzz in terms of like you'd meet everyone around the apartment block, and like it was good crack, like, you know, there was good crack between the athletes and all, like, to be fair. But we really had good fun then at the night of the ball, the Olympic ball post. So that was great, like to have a few beers with everyone, and you know, you'd be like, oh, like, you know, you'd be running into people, be like, oh, like I didn't get to catch you at the games because of X, Y, and Z, but it was good to it was like, you know, you'd be talking about such and such, like, so it was good laugh, like.
Yeah, the pictures and stuff, and I think there were a couple of people I follow where videos up and looked actually really entertaining. It's nothing like, I think when you bring elite athletes together on a night out, it's probably one of the wildest night outs you'll ever be on.
Mad, all right, to be honest with you. I'd be quite enough though. I wouldn't have too many drinks, like.
For anyone listening in the general sports community, what kind of misconception would you like to break for us, or what is one thing you'd like us to know from your experience, from your career, about professional and elite sport?
That's a good question. So phrase that again for me there.
So kind of, if you could break any sort of misconception about elite sports people or elite sport, or kind of give us, you know, kind of break a misconception that's kind of maybe out there about elite sports people, or what it takes to be an elite athlete.
Okay. Let me see. It's a good question. That's a tough one. I don't have anything off the top of my head. I think one thing, right, that's a big one that may need to be sort of ironed out a little bit is, do you know the way, I know it's very much so to get it, because I would have lived with a lot of guys who, particularly through college, who came up through Gaelic background, and they would have played a lot of intercounty and stuff, and they went on these mad drinking bans. Right, and I never gathered it, like I never got it. And I remember some coaches said to me, like, they were like, particularly in rugby, they're like I don't care, like, if he shows up drunk, but if he's able to do his job, I don't mind, you know. So like for me, like, obviously you're not going to show up drunk to train or anything, but like, in terms of like, I think having a few beers isn't going to rock the boat, like, you know, in terms of around your performance. I think it's a bit overlooked in terms of like, I like, as I just know from experience, like, as in, and from being with a lot of lads, particularly on seven stuff, like, I think having a couple of beers not like, I'm not saying like the night before a game or anything, but I'm saying in terms of like a week before or something isn't going to kill your performance. And if you're having it with a couple of mates, like it's nice to even like it's even better connections through there. Like that's probably one thing like I'd say around drinking bans. Like as in I feel like I just know like from lads like they go on these drinking bans. But I think it even entices them to drink more.
Yeah.
Do you know, like if nothing is said about it, and if someone, fair enough, if someone shows up and they're not doing their job, you're like, well, just drop them, like, and then, like if they're out in the beer, it's their own fault, like.
Yeah, that's. I'm actually really glad you brought that up because it's kind of mad. Like whoever brought it in originally, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like maybe it's like, oh, it's the mental commitment to the team, but a
yeah,
good few GA players have kind of come out and said that they're like, well, some of the best teams don't have a drinking ban first of all,
yeah.
and some of the other lads are like, this is ridiculous because they'll either know or they'll see the likes of yourselves in rugby setups having a beer at the end, like and having the crack with each other and being like, we can't do
Like
this.
the players are smart enough at this stage, particularly in professional game. They know what's too much and what's not. Like and I think when you're away or when you're in certain circumstances, it's nice to have a beer and just chill out, and it's good mentally. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, as in, it's not like you're gonna drink like 12 or 14 beers that can get absolutely pissed and like do mad stuff. Like a couple of beers, chilling out with the lads, it says a lot. Like, and it's not going to be detrimental to your training, whether it's like in 2 days' time or the next day. Like, and like I know, like playing with a lot of my mates, like they'd say that they'd be the exact same. Like I'd love to just have a beer too. Like they're not going to go out and get carried away. Like.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I want to ask you, what's been the biggest lesson you've learned from sport overall during your career? Was there anything that kind of stood out to you?
Hmm, that stood out to me. Probably two things, I suppose. Resilience is definitely one, in terms of like, even when things aren't going your way, to just persevere and keep going, and you will come out the other side. Particularly if you're determined, you will come out the other side and the right side of it. And then I suppose being conscious of others as well, in terms of around being a team player, in terms of looking after, I suppose, looking after your mate, like, in terms of not being selfish and looking out for yourself, you have to look out for other people as well. I suppose they're two sort of key takings you take from sport, really.
Okay, you that team environment, kind of looking out for one another, having each other's backs.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah, yeah. I think that's huge. Like,
Brilliant. I'm going to move on to sideline 7 because I have to fly to training. So, question 1, I actually don't think I've sent these to you. They're the same 7 questions
no,
at the end of every episode. So, I'm putting you on the
okay,
spot with these. So, I'm expecting
you
some
really are.
really
You're
good
putting
answers.
me.
Question 1, what is your favourite quote?
Oh, oh, oh. Don't know about that one. You may come back to that.
Okay, we'll come back. Come
Uh,
back. I will hold you to. I might message you later on if you don't send me one.
yeah, I'll
Question
message you.
2. Question 2. What's the best sporting event you've been to? And you can pick one as a fan and one as a player.
I suppose as a player, geez, there's a good few. Um, I'm going to say the final in the Hong Kong qualifier. We played we played Hong Kong in the final, so the place was absolutely rammed. And we ended up winning. And the booze and all was mental, but it was serious, and even like afterwards, like the crack was unbelievable. And then the event I attended, trying to think, what have I attended? I think there was a Munster Leinster semi final in the Heineken Cup. I think, was it 2011 or 2000, and it could be 2008 actually. Around then, that was a good game. That was a great game.
Okay, I'm going to add in an extra one for yourself. What's been your favourite city to play in? Not necessarily
Okay,
with wins or losses, just overall. What's been your favourite city to go and play in?
favorite city to play in.
Because you've been really around the world, to be honest.
Yeah. Hmm. I think I really enjoyed. Oh, that's it. San Francisco. We played in AT&T Park in the World Cup, and that was pretty special. There, that was class. And we done a road trip along the west coast as well of America after that, so that was pretty slick.
Oh, unreal. That's
We may
class.
get another podcast for that one. So yeah, so that was a few stories to be told from that. Like a few
Brilliant.
stories I should never be told either. Like.
That podcast won't be going live.
No.
Um, question 3. What was the biggest setback or challenge in your career and how did you react to it?
It was definitely there's probably two setbacks. One was time of the injuries, and then there was another stage that my dad got very ill. So that was both like, and that was very both, and I was they were both around similar time, like around this exact same time. So that was very, very, I suppose, hard, and it was particularly when we lost in Hong Kong, because I was over in Hong Kong. I went over, and I was named to play, and I actually picked up an injury the week of in training in Hong Kong.
Oh no.
So all like a lot of stuff like that. But then it all sort of bounced back when in London a couple of months later. So ever since then it bounced on from there.
Okay,
So I
brilliant.
suppose that was the biggest one.
On the flip side then, what's been your biggest achievement on or off the pitch?
I'm gonna have to say, I suppose on the pitch is getting to the Olympics in Tokyo. Yeah, that was huge. That was huge.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Looking back, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Um, ooh, good question. I suppose just keep faith and keep pushing on, keep believing in yourself, and I suppose keep the head down and keep pushing on.
Question 6. Who would be your dream dinner guest and why? And you can open up the table to a few people if you want.
Ooh, dream dinner guest. That's a really good question, actually. Definitely should have sent these through to me.
That's going to be edited out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, throw that off. Let me see. Hmm, that is a very good question. I was going to say, yeah, I'd say probably Brian O'Driscoll. Just purely because I would have looked up to him when I was younger, and he was a big one for me. And I know, like, have spoke to him briefly on on the HSBC on the series and stuff like that. But it'd be nice to, I suppose, hear all the stories of when he was sort of going through his career and even post career and everything else like that. Like, it'd be interesting to hear, get a few stories out of him.
Deadly. If I ever get him on the podcast, I'll give you a shout to be a co-host for that episode.
do.
Yeah. Brilliant. Last question before I let you go. If your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
Oh, what chapter would this be called? I suppose New Beginnings.
New Beginnings.
Yeah, because it's I suppose it's all starting again with new career and everything starting off again. So it's interesting to see what holds, what comes in the future.
Brilliant. I just want to wish you the best of luck with that. And I hope you enjoyed this weekend. And thanks a million for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, no, lovely. Cheers, Orla. Appreciate that, mate.
Massive thank you to Foster for joining me on the podcast today. I thoroughly enjoyed our chat and I hope you got something from it. I'll be sure to leave all of his social media links in the description box below, and I just want to wish him the very best of luck with the next chapter. If you are enjoying the podcast, I'd really appreciate if you leave a rating and a review over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as it does help the show grow. As always, thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.